Okay, and we are live. Good
Woo!
morning, good afternoon, good day. Just depends on where you are when you are watching this broadcast. We want to welcome you to Lyonsview Realty Financial Fridays. My name is Clara Lyons-DeVaughn, and I am the broker owner of Lyonsview Realty. Our team provides residential, commercial for small businesses and nonprofits, and property management services. So we launched Financial Fridays to help you stay current on those trends that impact your bottom line. And our goal is to provide you with resources, information, and tips to assist you in making the best financial decisions. And our commitment is to help you maximize your wealth building power now and in the future. So I'm so glad that you tuned into the broadcast today. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Feel free to like and share this information with other people because we have a phenomenal guest today. And remember, our guests are always here as a resource to you. So if you have any questions, just put them in the chat and we will definitely get back to you with a response. Or if you have suggestions for other information that you'd like us to bring to you, you can type that in the chat as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about today's guest. I met her actually through another meeting. As you know, I'm also a member of the Southern New Jersey chapter of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. And Miss Janett came and gave this presentation, and I was totally wowed by her. Uh, and wowed by the information because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And it's knowing those little things that make a difference in the decisions that we make moving forward. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce Miss Susan. And did I pronounce
Hello.
your last name correctly,
You
or
know what? No one can pronounce my last name correctly. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's Janet, but
Janet?
I'm still waiting for a last name. If you find one for me, I appreciate it.
Like two first names, Susan Janet.
Always.
There we go. There we go. So Miss Susan Janet, who
Thank you.
is a phenomenal resource, and if you don't have a pen and paper, get one,
Thank you.
or just listen. Just it's going to be a wealth of information today. But I'm going to let Susan talk a little bit about herself. She's got some slides for us, and we're kind of going to go back and forth. But Susan, just share a little bit about who you are, because I know you're serious into dog rescue.
Oh my God. I'm sitting here thinking when you said, "Who am I?" Well, which hat would I put on to say who I am? I'm three things,
Okay.
among other things. And I don't even have being a mother in that category, but I am an animal rescuer. I have my own nonprofit 501c3, very compassionate, all foster, family owned rescue in northern New Jersey. We save about 400 lives a year. In fact, we have over 20 dogs and puppies arriving on Friday, tomorrow, that were saved from definite euthanasia due to overcrowding. So those are 20 plus souls that are going to live because of us. And we found 20 plus volunteers as fosters to take them into their homes and give them love and make them feel better and let them decompress. And then they have the option in 2 weeks either to adopt their foster or let us find the perfect family for their foster. And
Wow.
it's a beautiful program. I'm very proud of it. So
Yeah.
that's one hat I wear. The
Mhm.
second hat I wear is that I've been a licensed New Jersey Realtor since 1987. I have also been in the business my entire life. My father founded our family real estate business back in 1954 in Verona. So
Wow.
I have been in the real estate environment my entire life.
Wow.
I am also a continuing education instructor nationally. I travel the country and I teach about oil heat, which brings us to my third hat that I wear, and that is I'm an oil heat specialist. And I'm very pleased to run a national nonprofit educational program for realtors selling oil heated properties. So as a consumer, as a homeowner, you want to seek out a realtor that's been educated if you own an oil heated home. that understands, because there's a niche. It's a niche. And I want to help you get the most out of your oil heat at home. So I train realtors to better help you. And it's a good question to ask when you're interviewing a realtor to represent you. Have you been
Mhm.
trained in oil heat and how to represent an oil heated listing?
Indeed, indeed. And Susan was really, really gracious and came to our office virtually to provide education to our realtors. And it was a phenomenal presentation. And I just said, you know what, Susan, we've got this platform, Financial Fridays. I really want you to come on and share from a consumer perspective, because I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of great information that consumers need about the process. So let's jump in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Go ahead,
put
start it up.
I'm gonna put your presentation. Oops, wait a second here. Here
You
we
look
go.
fabulous.
That's not the one I want. Okay, we're gonna add.
Oh,
There
there we
we are. There
are.
we
Okay.
are. Okay.
All right. So let's skip through this. My nonprofit program that I run is Partnership for Realty and Oil Heat Success. I represent the oil heat industry as a whole. I work for the National Oil Heat Research Alliance. And the reason we chose realtors to educate, because you guys as consumers, you need to have a realtor who can best serve you. So that's the premise of my work. And
Mhm.
so we are paid for by a grant, fully funded by an educational grant by NORA, which is the National Oil Heat Research Alliance. That is where I get my facts. It's an esteemed national association, so you can feel confident in the material and the education that I deliver. My program is also implemented through the Fuel Merchants Association of New Jersey, and that is the state association for oil heat.
Mhm. So if a broker, for my brokers out there, if you want Susan to come, she can come in and present this to your agents in your office, or if even if you're a nonprofit or another organization
Hmm.
and you find the information useful today, Susan,
Right.
reach out to Susan at the end, and she can also
Thank you.
come out and speak to your organization.
I do educate the consumer when asked. I've been to the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis. I'll go to any service organization and share my education.
Awesome.
I was also a Rotary exchange student when I was 17, but that's
Are
a
you
long
serious?
time ago. Whoops, I just flipped right through that. Okay, let's just get to the meat of this. Believe it or not, there are still people out there that don't understand oil heat at all. There are still people out there who believe that it's Jed Clampett's oil, from the Beverly Hillbillies back in the day, the black gold, the Texas tea, the bubbling crude shooting in the air, the black, dirty, yucky, ugh. That's
Yeah.
what people think of oil. There's still people out there who believe that. And the thing is that 40, 50 years ago, it was true. 40, 50 years ago, it
Mhm.
really was dirty and it smelled and it just wasn't a pleasant fuel. But they
Mhm.
have come so far. And the problem is that the oil heat industry hasn't done a great job in educating the consumer on the modern strides that have taken place in the oil heat industry. Let me tell you, this is not grandpa's fuel anymore. Oil heat, number one, it used to be black, it used to be like molasses. Then
Mhm.
it became like a brownish color. Then
Mhm.
they refined it and cleaned it down to a dark amber, to a light amber, to a yellow. And today's oil is crystal clear like baby oil. And
Wow.
people don't know that. It's perfectly clean. But and
Mhm.
another thing, you may find that people say, I thought oil was red. Isn't it red? Well, some of it is. You know why? I'm going to tell you a little story.
Probably the same reason why they put scent in gas so you can smell it.
Well, that's one reason. That's a really good point. That's
Mhm.
one reason. But here's the thing. Did you know that diesel at the pumps for the truckers
Mhm.
is 100% pure heating oil?
Hmm.
Diesel at the pumps is heating oil.
Wow.
And here's the thing, those truckers very quickly caught on that they were fueling their 18 wheelers with diesel
Mm.
pumps with heating oil.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody got smart and started a trend among them, and they began buying up tanks and having your home heating oil dealer deliver home heating oil to their homes and filling their 18 wheelers with home heating oil. It's the same product. Well, why would they do that? They didn't have to pay taxes on it,
Ah,
tax free.
yeah.
Well, that worked really well, and all the truckers were doing this. And then the government caught on. And the government said, you know what? That's tax evasion. That's a big crime. And
Wow.
so the government mandated that heating oil at the pumps, diesel, be
Mm-hmm.
dyed a particular shade of red so it can be easily visually distinguished from heating oil that's delivered from your home heating oil dealer. Now, when you see those trucks pulled over on the side and the trooper is walking around and checking things out, one of the things they're checking, they're putting a dipstick in that tank to pull it out and see if it's the right shade of red. If it
Wow.
isn't, that guy, that driver is in huge trouble with the government. That's a crime. So, why do I tell you this? It's a fun story, but let me tell you why I tell you this. With heating oil, you never have to worry about running out. Because,
Mm-hmm.
guys, I don't know if you know this, if you own an oil heated home out there, if you're low and you don't want to pay a premium delivery because it's a holiday or a weekend, and you don't want to, wait until Tuesday to get your normal fill, just go down to the gas station and get a 5-gallon tank, fill it with diesel, with red diesel, put it in your tank, and it'll hold you over until you can get a
Get that
normally
next delivery.
scheduled delivery. That's
Wow.
really important to know because
Yeah.
most people don't know this. So
Yeah.
you always have control, always.
It, it's really oh, it's really it's really interesting because we've got this whole escalation
Mhm.
of prices of heating fuel,
Yeah.
and you know there are a lot of homes that are that have oil based heating systems, and so in my line of work, for consumers, they have the choice between a home that is oil, it has an oil tank, and one oil heating, and one that doesn't, that has gas. A lot of times they'll go for gas, and I'm like, it's all about kind of budgeting for
Mhm.
one. And you have to weigh the pros and cons of the pricing, but it's not the horrible thing. And I don't think, like speak to you talked about the elephant in the room. It's
Yeah.
it's it's well cost, I would assume. I
Yeah,
know.
let's talk about the elephant in the room because as if oil heat didn't get a bad enough rap to begin with, we really have had to work hard to overcome the stigma that can come
Mhm.
along with owning an oil heated home.
Yeah.
Because of the misconceptions I talked about before. Now it's all over the news. What's going on with prices? Prices are sky high all over again.
Yeah, they're starting to come down a little bit,
A little
but
bit. They're creeping. And
yeah,
that's
they're
not a
creeping down a little
surprise
bit.
to me at all. Not a surprise because we've seen this before.
Yeah.
We saw this back in July 2008. Back
Hmm.
then, and if you think back now, whether you own an oil heated home or not, if you were driving a car back in July 2008, you'll remember gas prices shot sky high. They were up where we are now. And so did oil heat prices sky high. And it came over us in a flash. It came out of nowhere. It was unexpected. And it really threw us for a loop. But what most people do not remember about July 2008 is that within a few short months, prices came right back down. They came right down quickly to low normal, and they stayed low normal for 14 months. And during the pandemic, the prices were so low, they were almost asking you to please come fill your tank because they were running out of storage at how low prices were during the pandemic.
Mhm.
And then what happened? And then the war in the Ukraine broke out.
Yeah.
And here it is. All of a sudden, prices shot
Oh,
all the way back up again.
yeah.
And we're back in the same scenario. And it's interesting. It's a little bit of supply and demand, it's a little economics. The
Mhm.
economics of it is that as countries are standing by the United States and standing by the Ukraine,
Mhm.
countries in Europe are pulling back from getting their crude oil supply from Russia. The
Okay.
countries are one by one sanctioning Russia. And what they're doing is they're turning to us, to our
Mhm.
suppliers, to get their supply. So that is putting a big weight on the
Oh,
United States supply. That's
gotcha.
where economics come in. We're not getting our fuel from Russia, but the spill out from that is that other countries in Europe are coming to us and we are providing to them so that Russia doesn't get a penny of their money. That's what we're doing. But
Gotcha.
it also is speculators on Wall Street because unfortunately, crude oil is a commodity that's
Mhm.
traded on Wall Street. And when
Indeed.
the war broke out, what happens on Wall Street when a war breaks out? Frenzies, trading frenzies start happening,
Mhm.
buying, 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 buying. And this is what they do. They respond to major weather, they respond to a war, they respond to a new president, they respond to political things that happen in the world. And they responded to the Ukraine war. So
Mhm.
that combined with Europe coming to us for fuel started affecting our ability to provide low priced oil. Prices started climbing and climbing, supply and demand,
Gotcha.
plus speculation. So it kept climbing and climbing. But when we look back in history, history tells us to hunker down and hold on because this will rebound. Just wait out the rebound. The last time, besides 2008, that we had a major oil crisis in our country, you have to go back all the way to the 70s. And
Mhm.
during the 70s, there was a war going on in the Middle East
Mhm.
and we were foreign dependent. We were getting our fuel, our crude oil from the Middle East. And
Mhm.
they were holding our oil heat hostage. They wouldn't sell it to us. So the United States had no choice but to go on a mandatory rationing system of gasoline.
I remember that. I remember you had your day of the week that you had to go
That's
to
right.
get gas, depending on your license plate number or some arbitrary thing. And that it was, and the lines were amazing. They were like,
Miles, miles, miles. You
it
would
was crazy.
I got my license in the 70s, in the late 70s, but I do remember sitting in the car and waiting for hours and hours just
Indeed.
to fill up. And by the time you got there, sometimes they come out with that cardboard sign
Things
saying no
sold out.
gas, right?
And some very upset people.
It was awful. That corrected itself.
Yes.
So those are the only two instances besides today with the Ukraine war where
Mhm.
oil heat has been a challenge like that, where we have had a price challenge, a supply challenge.
Mhm.
Um, so, the industry has been working since 2008 when it shot up. They said, we have to be really careful about this
Yeah.
because what's hurting us is if we have to sell all of our supplies to other countries,
Right.
and if we end up not being so foreign
Dependent.
independent down
Right.
the road,
Right.
are we going to have to turn to some of those other resources for our fuel? So the industry began some scientific research on something called BioHeat. It began
Uh-huh.
back then in 2008, and it's been going on for a very long time. BioHeat is an all plant based, renewable, biodegradable, homegrown heating oil alternative. It's
Yes.
That's what we're looking at. We're looking at a product that we can create here in our own country. Our farmers can grow sunflowers, soybeans. We can harvest algae, and we can take the recycled cooking oil from the diners and the restaurants. We don't need to throw it out. We can clean it and we can break it down into a very fine particulate, and we can blend all of this together with our current oil heat supply and increase our oil heat supply. So, how did we know this would work though? People were afraid. What about my old pre turn of the century converted coal burner that still works, that's still heating my home? How would BioHeat affect that? So, a study was done, and two volunteer companies out in Rhode Island volunteered to provide 100% pure plant-based bioheat to their entire customer base for 1 full year. Two independent companies.
Okay.
At the end, they submitted their results to Congress, and the results showed less middle of the night breakdown calls, less maintenance calls, less problems with systems. That they discovered that this all natural plant based heating oil alternative was actually good for these systems. So it became a go, and it was approved to begin processing, and it will lead us towards 100% foreign independence. As I said, it's made from corn, it's made from soybeans, it's made from algae, and from cooking oil. And they have since added a new component into this. They have now begun adding melted down, discarded animal fat. The animal fat that the butcher is cutting off and throwing in the garbage is fuel. So they're taking that garbage, melting it down, and refining it. And that is also part of this all natural bioheat that we're looking at. And
I
when,
was,
go ahead.
I was going to say, it's before you said the animal fat, I was like, there's this whole correlation I was thinking about the human body as well. So I don't know if you recall, but I'm plant based, right?
Yes.
And so, if you look at the analogy of the human system, and how we fuel ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and the analogy of how we fuel our homes and how we fuel our cars, and what's the trend of the future, the trend is really moving towards being in a plant-based system, because everything that we need is naturally available to us to survive, right?
Right.
And so, even adding in the meat-based fat, if you don't have to kill them, I guess. I mean,
Well,
everything
they're
is
going to be killed.
essentially.
They're not going to kill them for their fat. These
Okay.
are mandated that it's only slaughtered animals that are used for food.
Okay.
Because the premise, now I'm an animal rescuer, I'm an animal
Mhm.
person, and I have trouble with any kind of slaughtering of any animal. But the premise being that if you are going to slaughter an animal for food, then
Mhm.
you should use all of the
All of it.
animal,
All of
right?
it.
You
Right.
shouldn't throw that fat away,
Right.
because now
Right.
that's sacrilegious to
Right.
throw the fat away. And so
Right.
they have found a way to convert that fat into an energy.
Into the energy source. Yeah, and even in the plant-based world, we take a lot of stuff, and what's left over is also can also be used. So I'm really excited about BioHeat and what it's going to do for the fuel and the heating industry. So as we, plant-based to fuel our bodies, plant-based to fuel our cars and our homes, and I'm
Mhm.
just really excited about that. So
Yeah, in
carry
fact,
on.
if you've seen any of the Exxon commercials on TV, they're now advertising algae is
Hmm.
being added to, they're working on algae in their gasoline. It's the same thing. It's the same process. So,
Awesome.
yes, we are moving forward. One of the components that we left off in this recipe
Right.
was
Mhm.
corn,
Mhm.
because corn is so edible. Corn is a staple on every family's dinner table.
Yeah,
Corn is a staple for feeding our livestock, feeding our animals. And so it was decided that corn would not meet the requirements of this program to go all natural, plant based, and to be sustainable. We don't want to take away from one food group and
yeah.
add to another process.
Got
So
it.
corn is left out of this.
Got it.
And we are in the process right now of very gradually transitioning to this BioHeat. It has been approved by Congress. In 2023, dealers are permitted to use a 20% blend, 2080 blend of BioHeat mixed in with their oil heat. By the year 2030, it is approved that the oil industry can begin doing 50-50. And by 2050, it is approved by not only the government, but it is approved by the oil industry to be at a 100% biofuel basis.
Susan,
Now,
is
go
this
ahead.
like all energy sources? Are there some companies that, like how do we know which, if we go to a gas station, that this gas station is on track or not
Mhm.
on track for
Yeah,
meeting these guidelines?
that's a really good question. And I've been a little frustrated with that myself. I have to assume there will be a database at some point of who provides what because it's all elective, you know. So I happen to know right now there are companies in New England that are providing to their customer base 50-50.
Mhm.
There are companies that are providing 30%. It's up to them what they want to provide. And what we find that the companies that are more environmentally friendly are the ones that are going more towards the bigger blend. And I have to hope that there will be a database. In the meanwhile, you got to call and ask what's your bioheat ratio.
Gotcha.
They call it a B10, that would be 10%. A B50 would be 50%. A B30 is 30%.
Got
So
it.
for right now, it's a matter of doing research. Down the road, hopefully, it will be all provided to you, just like there are websites you can go on to find the lowest price of oil in the community. So
Gotcha.
it's a service, correct?
Awesome. Awesome. So how is this going to affect our consumers down the line?
That's a really good question because, what we want to hear, the answer to the question that we want to hear right now
Excuse me.
is that it's going to drive down prices, right? That's what we want to hear. We want to hear that prices are going to be dramatically lower. We can't predict what the prices are going to be in the future because there are elements that fall into play, just like, you know, groceries are not traded on Wall Street. Our groceries are the prices have gone up right now. It's ridiculous. You can't even buy a carton of milk. And the meat, it's like crazy when you go to the grocery store. Well, the same effects from the outside in will affect the pricing of BioHeat. I would have to assume that weather would also play a big part. Global warming would play a big role in the pricing. For right now, I can't give you an answer on what the price will be. That will be part of the future when it becomes more available. Obviously, everybody wants the prices to be more sustainable, more available. We are hoping that it will not be traded on Wall Street. That is our hope. That bioheat will not be like crude oil, which is like a big commodity that people use to make money. We are hoping that bioheat won't fall into that category. So it's too soon to give a definitive. But here's what I can do for your followers that are listening along today. A couple of things. I want to tell you the prediction for this winter. I think that will help you because I'm of the mind, eyes wide open. Rose colored glasses look very pretty, but let's open our eyes and let's talk about what's coming. The winter's going to be rough. This is going to be a hard one. It's probably going to be the hardest one we have ever seen as far as affording to heat our homes. But
Mhm.
there are some solutions out there. What I want to recommend to your listeners, number one, just to get through the winter, this winter, I recommend number one, call and ask your oil dealer, are you offering a cap program? CAP, cap program. You do not want to lock in a price today just because you think prices are going to escalate and go higher. If you lock in at a price, you are going to be very upset when prices drop because you're locked in at the high price and you do not get to take advantage when the prices come down of the lower price. Don't lock in. Here's
Mhm.
what you do instead, you cap it. You get a cap program, and most dealers will offer a cap program as a discount. It is generally lower than today's fuel prices. So you
Okay.
ask, what price is your cap program today? They'll tell you the price will be lower. You cap in at that for a year. When you
Mhm.
cap in at a price, if prices rise further, as they're predicted to,
Mhm.
you
You
take
still
advantage
pay
of
the
the
cap.
cap. You don't get
Gotcha.
the higher price. But the beauty of the cap is if prices drop, you get the lower price.
Oh,
That's
nice.
a win-win.
Yeah, that is a win-win.
So everyone should be writing down cap program. And if your dealer doesn't offer a cap program, call somebody else.
Right?
Go
Shop.
around, shop around. You may find someone who does.
Yeah.
And oil prices are competitive, oil companies are competitive.
Mhm.
And, some people will offer a lower cap to get your business because everybody wants to take business away from somebody else. So that's number one, go on a cap program.
Okay.
The second component of what I'm recommending to you is get on a budget plan immediately.
Okay.
Immediately. Now, you may say, I don't need a budget plan. I don't have trouble paying my bills, and I don't need anybody to manage my payments for me. This winter, go on a budget plan. You are looking possibly at about a $5,000 heating season in just a few months of the year. You're looking at big bills, big invoices in just a few months. In like during the winter, you'll get a delivery. It'll be like $800, $900, $1,000. If it's a cold winter, in 3 weeks you could get another one. And
Mhm.
how are you going to come up with all that cash to come up with $5,000 in 4 or 5 months? With the budget, a lot of the dealers today are allowing everyone who has good credit to go on a budget program. And what they do is instead of paying during those few months, the 5,000, you spread it out during the whole year.
Mhm.
You have more manageable payments, predictable payments every single month.
Mhm.
It's just a tool to help you get through this winter. So instead of having $1,000 payment, maybe you'll have a $450 payment during the month. And it's predictable and you can budget for it. It's just something that all of the oil dealers collectively are encouraging their long-term clientele to do just to help them get through this winter. Another thing, the third part of the plan is they're recommending you just go on automatic payment. I mean, automatic delivery. Just go on automatic delivery. Let the company just bring you oil. They're monitoring your usage. They know when you need it, and let them just bring it to you. You don't have to worry when you're going to get your next fill. You don't have to worry about running out. You don't have to worry about turning the heat up because you might run out of fuel. If you need to turn the heat up, you turn it up and
Mhm.
you get the fuel you need and you pay for it over the course of the year. So that's my best recommendation for anybody listening right now. And it's not just something for that they're recommending to anyone new. they're recommending it to they're reaching out to every single person
Mhm.
as a customer, to thousands and thousands of customers, and saying, we really want you to do this because it's going to make your life so much better this
Mhm.
winter. What they're
Mhm.
trying to avoid is people not being able to afford their heat in the winter, and that
Mhm.
can't happen. That's unacceptable. So that's what they're trying to avoid.
Gotcha. So, I like the different solutions, and oil tanks. Like I said, they have a stigma, unfortunately, associated with them. So, one of the things, oh yeah, I love the slide. There are different types of tanks now than
Yeah,
there have been in the past. So,
they
talk
look
about
a
it.
lot different.
Yeah, they do. And where's the round pot belly?
That baby right there, you
That
know that.
guy.
You've seen that, you guys. Some of you
That,
have this in your basement. I bet some of our listeners' grandparents have this in their basement. They
mhm,
have this old potbelly uh oil tank that, like, you don't want to go near, you don't want to touch it, it's dirty, it looks like it has peeling lead paint. Just stay away. We've all seen this. See,
different
today's
ones.
modern
Mhm,
generation tank is shiny and sparkly, it's rectangular, it's more compact because you don't need as much fuel as you used to back in the day. And
mhm,
we'll talk about today's modern generation tank, but let's get back to this thing in the basement that you guys probably have. You know, we understand, you understand, everybody understands why people don't remove their underground tank. It's not because they don't want to. It's because they're afraid, right? There
mhm,
people are afraid of Pandora's box, so people
mhm.
are afraid to remove their underground tank. But the above ground tank, there's no excuse for that tank to be sitting there in the basement or in the backyard like that. It only had a life expectancy of about 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
Now,
Mhm,
if you think back 20 years ago, what is it, 2022? In Do you think that tank was installed in 2002? I don't think so.
no.
No, that tank goes back much further than that.
Mm. Yeah,
Most
and most people don't replace the older tanks. I know.
they just don't think to do it. It's just not
No.
on your radar. You know that you replace a roof after 25 years. We know that. Or you're going to have a leak. So you
Mhm,
do preemptive replacement, correct? Well,
right.
people don't do that. Let me tell you that if you have an old antiquated oil tank above ground, there are three things that you, as the owner, can look at to see if this is a tank on the verge of a leak. So it's very important. So you might want to write this down.
Mhm,
First thing you're going to do is you should make sure the shape isn't compromised. The bottom should be the same shape as the top. If the bottom has like an underbelly that's starting to bulge a little bit, if I was going to say like my ex-husband's, but no.
I say be nice.
I'm being nice. I take that back. I retract that statement. Okay. So if the underbelly is starting to bulge a little bit, that is an indication that the steel underneath is beginning to spread.
Mhm,
You see, this tank here was not intended to hold the weight of this oil for 60 years, maybe 20, 25, but it has been holding that weight far past its life expectancy. And the weight of the oil is causing the underbelly to begin to spread. You
mhm,
have a weakened underbelly that is on the verge of leaking. The
mhm,
second thing you're going to look to are the legs. The legs should be perfectly straight. If you notice a kneecap ever so slightly starting to form in the middle of the leg, like if it's starting to buckle a little bit, that's an indication that those legs are on the verge of collapse. You
mhm,
see, those legs too, the steel in those legs were never intended to hold this kind of weight for all these years, and the legs are beginning to give out. So if you see that, that's an indication that this is on the verge of collapse. And I promise you, if the legs give out and the tummy hits the floor, it's going to split right open. And you'll be calling ServPro to come in and remediate a big mess in your basement.
Yeah.
So those are two telltale signs. And the last one, we're so accustomed to that pretty white waterfall coming over the side, the corrosion, we're like used to it. But the thing is, corrosion works like an acid eating away at the steel. It's rusting out that steel, compromising the wall.
Yeah.
And what you can't see is what's going on inside. It's simple science inside. You have a tank, a capsule. You have a liquid level. As the liquid level gets lower and lower and lower, the walls inside begin to sweat. They begin to form condensation. That condensation over time is rusting the inside of the wall. So the inside of this tank that's been there forever is probably rusting on the inside, and corrosion on the outside is a perfect storm for this tank to leak. So these are some things to look at. But the next logical question is, well, what do I replace it with?
Right.
What is today? Oh, I have that all jumbled. Don't even read it. Don't read that. I'll just show you the picture. Today's modern generation above ground tank is super sparkly and shiny. It looks pretty. It's rectangular in shape. It can fit into a corner. It can go in the basement. It can go in the backyard. And it's double walled. Here in New Jersey, it's mandated that it be double walled. Now, what's inside that tank is what makes it so important. We talked about the steel sweating on the inside when the level gets low. Well, inside this tank is a bladder or a thermos, let's say, a thermos. And the thermos is not made of glass. The thermos is made of a material that is modeled after Tupperware. Tupperware doesn't leak. Doesn't matter. And Tupperware will not compromise. I mean, grandma's got Tupperware in the refrigerator for 40 years ago. Don't open it, but it's still intact. So the beauty of today's modern Roth, ROTH, double wall is that, number one, the oil never touches the steel, so it can't corrode the inside of the tank. It's inside the Tupperware container. Number two, if it does leak by some manufacturer's defect, it will leak into itself and an alarm will go off to tell you to call for service. And number three, the Roth company, ROTH, is so confident that their tanks will not leak. Each new tank comes with $1 million transferable warranty against manufacturer's defect. You can't lose with that.
Gotcha. Now, earlier you talked about the tank having a sensor to let them know when more oil is needed. So these types of tanks have that type of sensor, because do the old tanks have sensors that tell the oil company?
You're just kind of out of luck with the old tanks.
Gotcha.
So it's really important to keep up with times. And even though, we know to replace the roof, we know, how about this? We know that when the hot water heater is more than 10 years old, you replace it. If not, you're going to get you're going to have a swimming pool in your basement at some point. So we know the economic life of these things, and the consumer needs to be more and better informed, better aware of the economic life of their tank as well.
Indeed.
Okay, good. Let me just go on. How's our timing? Am I going? Do you want me to wrap up here, or just give you one more thing?
Well, yeah, we're at about 45 minutes.
I think we gave enough information today. I really think we did. I'm going to throw in one last thing, and we'll call it a day. Here's what you can do to upgrade your energy efficiency.
Okay.
Get rid of that old system in the basement, the one from the 1800s. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But a lot of us have these old systems in the basement, and we don't replace them because they still work. Get rid of it. It's not going to cost you $10,000. For under $5,000, you can upgrade to an energy efficient system. And the day you do that, you can still reduce your heating costs by 40%. That will offset the rising prices. That's huge. So upgrade
Mhm.
to a middle of the line, solid as a tank, Wheel McLean. Doesn't have to be 95% efficient. Make it 85% efficient for $4,800 installed. And you'll save 40% on your fuel bills, which means if you were using 1,300 gallons during the winter, that means this winter you'll only use 700 gallons.
Wow.
That's how you offset what's going on with prices right now. And it will pay for itself in 6 years in amortized savings. So you can save 40% with that. Every year, if you have a system and you're not tuning it up every year, you're making a mistake. Oil heated systems need to be tuned up once a year. You call for service, the guy comes out. That's why they last so long. And each time you have it serviced, it reduces your heating costs by 10% because a clean system uses less fuel to work. It doesn't have to work as hard.
Mhm.
Install a programmable thermostat.
Yeah.
Use smart heating. Don't leave the heat on high when you're not needing it. You will instantly save 10% in your energy costs by using a smart programmable thermostat. And lastly, go in the basement, lower that dial on your hot water heater. It is factory set at 140. Lower it to 120. You can save up to 5%. And I have just shown you, if you want to, you can reduce your energy bills this winter by 65%. See,
That's
now that's how you do it.
That's amazing. That is really really good information because I don't think people realize how um, little things can impact overall cost over time. And it adds up. It really
It
really
makes a difference.
it really really adds up. And this is for any type of heating system, but especially with an oil-based heating system. There was another thing that I did want you to share with our listeners. If you're in a situation, or if they find themselves in a situation where they do have a tank that they think has possibly leaked,
Underground.
an underground tank. Thank you.
Yeah.
That they think has possibly leaked. What are some resources that are available for them?
Okay, I'm going to give you a website, and I'm going to recommend that your listeners write this down. This is a very important resource. The first thing you're going to do is go online to www.f as in fuel, M as in merchants, A as in association, NJ for New Jersey, .org. It's a .org organization. FMANJ.org. That is the Fuel Merchants Association of New Jersey. Enter your zip code, and a list of extremely reputable people will show up for you to call for help. Call one of the local members that shows up on that list. The people that are members of the Fuel Merchants Association go above and beyond, and those are the people that I feel confident recommending. Find a local dealer, call them up, ask to speak with a manager, ask to speak with an owner or a family member, because you need to have a real conversation. You don't want to just speak with customer service. You want more than that. And you tell them on the phone that you have just discovered a leak and you need help. That's number one. Number two, I want people to know that the most challenge with an underground tank, more than the fact that it's leaked, is getting that no further action letter.
Mm.
That no further action letter can take 6 months, 9 months. It can, and you'll have this big pile of dirt on the front lawn, the side lawn, the back lawn, and that's maddening. But in New Jersey, see, the problem is that there was only one person who could write the no further action letter, and that person is in Trenton. So New Jersey decided to make it easier. So New Jersey says that if you hire a remediation company who has a geologist on staff, that geologist is authorized to write the no further action letter on the spot, which means the remediation work can be done. And then the geologist from that company can go and do what they do and write up the no further action letter. That will expedite things dramatically. Alternatively, if they don't have a geologist on staff, you can offer to drive the paperwork to Trenton yourself to make sure the guy in Trenton gets what they need. Now, there's something very important that I need to share, and that is that in the state of New Jersey, we have money for remediation reimbursement. We have the most money available in the entire country. That we have up to $500,000 available in remediation reimbursement to a qualified homeowner who has discovered a leak. I emphasize reimbursement. You will not get the money to pay for the leak. You'll have to work something out with the contractor, or call your parents, whatever you need to do. Maybe get a loan. But you get up to $500,000. You have to submit a application. And if you want to learn more about this, I'm going to tell you how to Google it. You're going to Google PUST, which stands for Petroleum Underground Storage Tank. PUST, then NJ for New Jersey, and then remediation reimbursement. And you will see the qualifications are extraordinarily liberal. As long as you have an income, a taxable income, less than $250,000, you will qualify. As long as your net worth is less than $500,000 minus the house, it can be $1 million property, minus your pension, minus your 401k. If you have $500,000 sitting in a bank somewhere, you'll get disqualified. If you own an income property, you'll get disqualified. If you own a shore house, you'll probably get disqualified. This was designed for average New Jersey families not to go bankrupt or destitute over a leak. If this is an estate sale, it will be kicked out. It must be owner occupied. The owner must be living, and it must be your primary residence. So that's good news. The bad news is it takes a really long time to get that check. It will come. It's just going to take some time because it's the government.
I think that's amazing, and you provided a wealth of information today. Real estate and energy. I don't even want to call it a crisis anymore because energy isn't. It's a mainstay, right? And the price, just like the prices of housing, is going to go up. It's going to go down. It
Yes.
levels off at some point. And the key is, how do we manage it?
Yeah.
How do we manage what is going on in the market? And I think you provided some really valuable information to everyone today in terms of how they can um, look at new solutions for energy. I love the information about the BioHeat that's coming down the pike and how that's going to impact our prices and how it's going to impact the planet overall,
Yes.
and all of that. I also like the solutions, in terms of what people who have oil-based heat now need to look for with their existing tank. The things that they need to maintain it, and different tips on how to get through the winter, or through our maximum peak times
Yeah.
when we utilize our services. So are there any other tips that you want to add? Oh, and the last one, if you've got a problem, like if that puppy is leaking, Or you think it might be leaking, you do have some resource and some recourse, if you qualify to fall, to get some compensation back for that effort. So there's no reason why one should be afraid of oil tanks. There's new technology. There's lots of resource out there to assist you with oil heating. And don't pass up a great house because it has an oil tank in it.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah,
There are solutions to all of this. And
yeah.
if you need further help, reach out to Clara. She knows how to reach me. I'm not going to put my phone number out there because um, I don't want to get a gazillion
Bombarded.
calls. But if you need any clarification or any assistance or advisement, reach out to Clara and she'll find me. She'll find me for you.
Indeed.
Okay.
Was there another slide that you wanted to
No, that's it.
share?
I'm good.
I'm gonna take that down. I just want to thank you, Susan.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to, have you present information on this topic. I love what you're doing in this area of energy efficiency. I love what you're doing with the pet rescue.
Woo! The animal.
Yes, yes. And so if you're out there and you need a pet, reach out to me or say the name of your organization again, and they
We
can.
are Rosemary's Rescue Ranch, and I named my rescue after my best friend, Rosemary, who passed away recently from cancer. But in her lifetime, Rosemary was involved in saving over 7,000 lives. She mentored me and she got me into this. And I promised her on her deathbed I would never stop. So, and I won't.
That's awesome. That's
Thank you.
awesome. This has been phenomenal. I get excited, with information that really helps people move forward. So I just want to thank you for joining us today. I want to thank all of our guests who tuned in today, and our guests are always here as a resource to you. So whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching the replay, you can still post any questions that you have, and anything that I can't answer, I'll reach out to Susan, get the answer, and post it so that everyone can see it. But I want to thank you for listening, for tuning in, for watching today. Financial Fridays is here to provide you with the resources, information, and tips that impact your bottom line. And I hope that you receive something of value today. So, just a reminder, my name is Clara Lyons-DeVaughn. Financial Friday streams live on Facebook and YouTube. On You can join us again next Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And until then, keep living your best life. Thanks so much, Susan.
Hi. Thank you.